What if I told you Apple has already made a decision about the iPhone 18 Pro that quietly locks in their entire 2026 strategy, and almost nobody is talking about it? Because while everyone is busy guessing what Apple might add next year, the real story is what Apple is choosing not to change, and that boring choice might be the exact reason Apple dominates 2026. Today I'm breaking down a major new milestone for the iPhone 18 Pro, what it reveals about Apple's plan, the surprising design decision Apple is sticking with, a new color that could become the must-have finish, and some pricing news that, if it holds, could save you hundreds of dollars. Alright, let's start with the headline that just dropped. According to a report from Fixed Focus Digital on Weibo, the iPhone 18 Pro has officially entered test production. Now, that sounds like typical leak season noise, right? Every phone gets tested. But this isn't just random testing. This is a serious phase, engineering validation. Engineering validation is the moment Apple and its top suppliers start stress testing the build itself, assembly efficiency, component fit, yield rates, and production speed. They're hunting for problems now, before mass production ramps later in the year, and the biggest takeaway from this milestone is simple. The iPhone 18 Pro design is basically locked. But here's the twist that's catching people off guard. Supply. Chain chatter suggests Apple is sticking with the same titanium design language they've already been using. No dramatic body redesign, no new frame material. No "we reinvented the iPhone" moment, at least on the outside. And before you hear that and think Apple is playing it safe, let me explain why this could be one of the smartest moves Apple has made in years. Keeping the titanium chassis. Consistent means Apple gets something they care about just as much as new features, manufacturing reliability. When Apple reuses a proven frame and structural design, the production line gets smoother. Tolerances are known. Failure points are already mapped. Quality control improves. Yields go up. And that's a huge deal because high yields don't just mean fewer defects. They mean more phones available at launch, fewer delays, and fewer early batch issues. In other words, if Apple keeps the titanium iPhone 18 Pro design familiar, they can pour their time and money into what actually changes how the phone feels every single day. Internal upgrades. And based on what's being reported, the inside of this phone is where Apple wants the real story to be. We're talking next-generation performance, better thermals, tighter internal integration, and an A-series chip upgrade that could be one of the biggest leaps in years. But Apple also understand something else. People still want the new iPhone to feel new, so instead of changing the shape, Apple may be changing the vibe. Mark Gurman at Bloomberg reports Apple is testing a brand new deep red finish for the iPhone 18 Pro, an iPhone 18 Pro Max. And no, this isn't just another color. Apple has learned that color can drive upgrades almost as much as cameras or battery life. We saw it with bold finishes that feel premium and fashion-forward, especially in markets like China, where unique luxury-style tones can become a status symbol. If Apple lands on a rich, sophisticated deep red, think burgundy, wine, or a darker, more mature red, it instantly creates that "I want that one" effect without needing a totally new silhouette. Now imagine that deep red paired with Grade 5 titanium. That's not just a phone color, that's a product statement. And here's where the bigger strategy comes in, because this isn't happening in a vacuum. A familiar iPhone 18 Pro design also makes it easier for Apple to create a clean separation between their classic flagship and what could be their most radical new product category in years, the iPhone Fold. If Apple launches an iPhone Fold around the same era, the lineup becomes crystal clear. The iPhone 18 Pro is the best traditional iPhone, refined, reliable, premium, built for people who want the top-tier iPhone experience, without learning a new form factor. And the Fold becomes the new category, for people who want something completely different. That's not boring. That's smart product segmentation. Apple can sell you a familiar flagship and a bold new category without confusing the mainstream customer who just wants the best iPhone that works. Now let's talk about the part that could matter even more than titanium and color, the price. Because if you've been watching the tech world lately, you already know what usually happens next. New chips get more expensive. Memory prices rise. Camera components cost more. Everything goes up. So you'd expect Apple to push the iPhone 18 Pro price higher in 2026, but reports are saying Apple might try to hold the line. Analyst Jeff Pugh, who tracks the supply chain closely, says Apple is heavily focused on cost management, with the goal of launching the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max at the same starting prices as the iPhone 17 Pro lineup. That would mean starting around $999 for the iPhone 18 Pro and $1,199 for the iPhone 18 Pro Max. If that happens in 2026, that's a big deal. So the question is, how does Apple upgrade a flagship iPhone and keep the price from jumping? Answer: they negotiate like crazy. Apple is reportedly pushing hard with suppliers, including names like Samsung and SK Hynix, because memory pricing for DRAM and storage has been climbing fast. Normally, rising component costs force one of two outcomes: either the company eats the cost and accepts lower margins, or you pay more at checkout. Jeff Pugh's report suggests Apple is trying option 3, use Apple's massive buying power to force better deals, lock pricing, and keep the iPhone 18 Pro starting price stable. But here's the technical challenge that makes this even more interesting. The iPhone 18 Pro is expected to debut the A20 Pro chip, with a major move to a 2nm manufacturing process. And historically, every time the industry jumps to a smaller node, especially something as ambitious as 2nm, the cost per chip rises significantly at the start. New nodes are expensive. Early yields can be tough, and the supply is limited. So if Apple really moves to 2nm with the A20 Pro, adds new internal upgrades, and still keeps the iPhone 18 Pro price at $999, that's not a normal Apple move, because that would mean Apple is either taking lower profit per phone, pushing suppliers harder than ever, or shifting their business priorities in a way that benefits their long-term strategy. And I think that long-term strategy is obvious: the ecosystem. Apple doesn't just make money when you buy the phone. Apple makes money for years after you buy the phone. iCloud storage, Apple Music, App Store purchases, Apple Care, subscriptions, and potentially premium Apple Intelligence features and services as on-device AI expands. So Apple can afford to play a different game than competitors. They can keep the hardware price more attractive if it means getting more people into the ecosystem and keeping them there. Ming-Chi Kuo has also suggested Apple is doing what it can to avoid a major price increase. And that lines up perfectly with this strategy: maximize adoption, then monetize the experience over time. But don't get too excited yet, because Apple pricing always comes with fine print. Starting price is the key phrase. Apple could keep the iPhone 18 Pro starting price the same and still make you spend more by adjusting the storage tiers. They could keep the base model at a lower storage amount, or push the sweet spot storage option into a higher price bracket. They've done this before, and they're masters at making the version you actually want cost more. So yes, the iPhone 18 Pro price could look stable on paper, while the configuration most people buy still ends up more expensive. Now, stepping back, here's what I think is really happening with Apple's 2026 iPhone strategy. While other brands chase wild redesigns, experimental materials, and risky gimmicks, Apple is going into full refinement mode. They're saying, the titanium iPhone Pro design already feels premium. It's durable, the layout works, people like it. So why change it? Instead, they focus on upgrades that actually change daily use: faster performance with the A20 Pro, better efficiency and battery life, improved heat management, camera upgrades that matter in real photos and video, and smarter AI that runs more smoothly on device. Then, for the people who want something visually new, Apple adds desire through a premium finish, like that rumored deep red iPhone 18 Pro, color, without blowing up the manufacturing process. And at the same time, Apple keeps the door open for a true wow product, the iPhone Fold. So the radical design energy goes into a separate category, not the mainstream iPhone Pro.